श्रीमार भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत श्रीमार भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत श्रीमार भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतर शत श्रीमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील गोक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्यल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुगौर्य गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पद दास रघुनाथ शारद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम चय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल व्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। श्री नारथम श्रीनिवास रामानंद प्रभु उत्तराय की जय। श्री कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ शारद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम चय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण। Sorry guys, I spaced out for a second. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि वो। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्तविहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams Indira Mataji and Madhavi Didi, Gargaraj ji, and Raseshwari Mataji. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Hari Bol. All right. So, actually, I just want to see something. All right. Share a video from your local computer. I wonder, because I made these. Actually, I can just download this. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay. 1 second. YouTube downloader. Which one is it? I think this one works. This one. I'll do this one. Okay. I'll do this slow. Okay. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Let's open up this. Okay, we're on chapter 87. Chapter 87. Dang it. Okay. So I'm not going to read all the verses like we did before, but I'll just start with the prayers. Okay. Because we already heard this enough times. Well, let's just see what the Parikshit Maharaj's question was first. O Brahman, how can the Vedas directly describe the Supreme Absolute Truth, who cannot be described in words? The Vedas are limited to describing the qualities of material nature, but the Supreme is devoid of these qualities, being transcendental to all material manifestations and their causes. Okay, so how can the Vedas describe the Supreme Absolute Truth, who cannot be described in words? He's completely beyond material nature. He has no mundane qualities. And so how can the Vedas describe them? So now, and this same question was asked by Narad to Narayan Rishi. And then Narayan Rishi says that this same question was asked, let's see what the group was. Okay. So Narayan Rishi says, O son of self-born Brahma, once a long time ago on Janaloka, wise sages resided there. The wise sages who resided there performed a great sacrifice to the absolute truth by vibrating transcendental sounds. These sages, mental sons of Brahma, were all perfect celibates. At that time, you, Narad, you happened to be visiting the Lord on Shvetadvip. A lively discussion arose among the sages on Janaloka as to the nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Indeed, the same question arose then that you are asking me now. And what is that question? Is how can Supreme Absolute Truth be described in words by the Vedas? Because the Lord is completely above mundane qualities, and the Vedas can only describe that which is. Anyways, yeah. Although these sages were all equally qualified in terms of Vedic study and austerity, and although they all saw friends, enemies, and neutral parties equally, they chose one of their number to be the speaker, and the rest became listeners. Alright, so let's just read from 21. That's where we were yesterday. I don't want to go on too late today. Okay. The individual living entity, while inhabiting the material bodies he has created for himself by his karma, actually remains uncovered by either gross or subtle matter. This is so because, as the Vedas describe, he is part and parcel of you, the possessor of all potencies. Having determined this to be the status of the living entity, learned sages become imbued with faith and worship your lotus feet, to which all Vedic sacrifices in this world are offered, and which are the source of liberation. Okay, so now he's going to explain about bhakti. My Lord, some fortunate souls have gotten relief from the fatigue of material life by diving into the vast nectar ocean of your pastimes, which you enact when you manifest your personal forms to propagate the unfathomable science of the self. These rare souls, indifferent even to liberation, renounce the happiness of home and family because of their association with devotees who are like flocks of swans enjoying at the lotus of your feet. When this human body is used for your devotional service, it acts as oneself, friend. But unfortunately, although you always show mercy to the conditioned souls and affectionately help them in every way, and although you are their true self, people in general fail to delight in you. Instead, they commit spiritual suicide by worshipping illusion. Alas, because they persistently hope for success in their devotion to the unreal, they continue to wander about this greatly fearful world, assuming various degraded bodies. Simply constantly thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attains the same supreme truth, whom sages, fixed in yoga, worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms, for you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. Okay, this is yesterday. Everyone in this world has recently been born and will soon die. So how can anyone here know him who existed prior to everything else and who gave rise to the first learned sage, Brahma, and all subsequent demigods, both lesser and greater? He lies down and withdraws everything within himself. Nothing else remains. No gross or subtle matter or bodies composed of these. No force of time or revealed scripture. Okay, so now we come to today's verse. Haribo, Rukmini Didi, and Champak Didi, and Bhavatarani Mataji, and Rihari Prabhu, right? Because I see there's Bhavahari and... Okay, 1 second. I'm just... I just want to test this out. Cool. Alright, so we'll be able to play a video that I made for the last verse at the end. Okay. Jane masata sato mritmutat maniye chabidham vipanamritam vipanamritam smarantyupadishanti arupitai Trigunamaya pumaniti vidha yarabodha krita tvainatata paratrasa bhavet avabodharase. Supposed authorities who declare that matter is the origin of existence, that the permanent qualities of the soul can be destroyed, that the self is compounded of separate aspects of spirit and matter, or that material transactions constitute reality. All such authorities base their teachings on mistaken ideas that hide the truth. The dualistic conception that the living entity is produced from the three modes of nature is simply a product of ignorance. Such a conception has no real basis in you, for you are transcendental to all illusion and always enjoy perfect total awareness. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The followers of Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Sankhya, Yoga, and Mimamsa philosophies all have their own incorrect ideas, which Vedas point out in this prayer. The Shruti said, "Not only is the truth about you, the personality of Godhead, difficult to understand, but because there is no unity of opinion among the learned, true knowledge about the supreme goal of life is also virtually impossible to acquire for the jiva souls." Patanjali Rishi's yoga philosophy teaches one how to achieve Brahman liberation by a mechanical process of exercise and meditation. Then the logicians, the Nyayikas, following Gautama Rishi, speak of liberation as the destruction of the soul's innate consciousness, with its 21 different causes of suffering. The six senses, the six sense objects, the six whirlpools, that's heat, cold, hunger, thirst, greed, and illusion, happiness, distress, and the body. Sankhya philosophers say that the soul's status of being free from qualities is his liberation. In truth, the soul is both conscious and active, but the Sankhites wrongly separate these two functions of the living force, ascribing consciousness to the soul and activity to material nature. The Mimamsakas, the proponents of karma mimamsa, of Jaimini Rishi, say that material work, karma, and its results are the only reality. The cycle of karma is perpetual, and the best one can aim for is higher birth among the demigods. All these philosophies teach by attribution, not by seeing the truth. If the living entity were in fact composed of the three modes of nature, then all these erroneous philosophies would be valid, but this is not the fact. Rather, the living entity is in truth devoid of material qualities. With this implication in mind, the Shrutis conclude this verse by saying, "The dualistic idea that the living entity is composed of the three material modes is a creation of your ignorance potency, and thus is not a fact. Furthermore, the duality affects not only the jivatma that duality affects only the jivatma and not you, the paramatma. The covering of ignorance of the jiva does not take place in you, because you are completely transcendental. Ignorance is a function of Maya, and Maya is under your control. You are exclusively imbued with total consciousness. Darkness cannot cover the unlimited light of the sun, but it can cover objects like gold or silver, which have small portions of light. Similarly, ignorance cannot cover the supersoul, but it can cover the individual spirit soul. Thus, the fallacious conclusions of these speculative philosophers prove that even great scholars and sages are often bewildered by ignorance. As the Katha Upanishad 1.2.5 says, "Avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhira panditam manyamana janganyamana pariyanti mudha andhenaiva niyamana yatanda. Caught in the grip of ignorance, self-proclaimed experts consider themselves learned authorities. Befooled, they wander about this world engaging in arguments and counter-arguments, like the blind leading the blind. Sadivamanastrivrit tvai vibhatyasara manujat Sarabhimrishantyasheshamidhamatmatayatmavida nahi vikring tyajanti kanakasya taratmata svakritamanu pavishtamidamata atmataya vasitam. Sorry, guys. The three modes of material nature comprise everything in this world, from the simplest phenomena to the complex human body. Although these phenomena appear real, they are only a false reflection of the spiritual reality, being a superimposition of the mind upon you. Still, those who know the Supreme Self consider the entire material creation to be real, inasmuch as it is non-different from the Self. Just as things made of gold are indeed not to be rejected, since their substance is actual gold, so this world is undoubtedly non-different from the Lord who created it and then entered within it. Commentary. A Mayavadi philosopher would take the words spoken by the personified Vedas in the preceding prayer, Tri Guna Maya Puman Iti Bidha, as negating any distinction between the Paramatma and the Jiva soul. He would claim that since the Jiva's material embodiment is a temporary display of the three modes of nature, when the Jiva's ignorance is destroyed by knowledge, he becomes the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul. Bondage, liberation, and the manifest world are all unreal creations of ignorance. In response to such ideas, the Shrutis speak this verse to clarify the factual relationship between Sat, the real, and Asat, the unreal, or the eternal and temporary. The whole universe, comprised of the three modes and including the living entity, seems to be real, but actually it is not, because it is simply an imagined production of the mind. The Shrutis say, Asato dhima srijata mana prajapatim asrijat prajapati prajas asrijat tadva idam manaseva paramam pratishtitam yad idam kingcha. The Supreme Mind was originally created from Asat. This mind created Prajapati, and Prajapati created all things. Thus, mind alone is the ultimate foundation of everything that exists in this world. This statement is in accordance with the Taittiriya Upanishad 271, Asad va idam agra asit. In the beginning of this creation, only Asat was present. By the agency of Brahman, Asato, as the active cause, there evolved ignorance, which manifested in the form of the mind, mana. That total mind of the creation then manifested Prajapati Brahma, who identifies with it as his body, since the economy of creation is such that no material body is created until some living entity wants to inhabit it. Therefore, this world is created by the mind. But the learned knowers of the self say the world is real. How can you say it is unreal? They understand it to be real in the sense that it is the product of the real. In other words, it is not different from it. It is only the product of the real. It isn't the real, it's just the product of the real. So in other words, in some ways it's not different from it. Indeed, when a particular created object has a particular ingredient cause, it appears in the very form of that cause, and in that way, can be utilized in a practical way. They illustrate this with a common example in the third line. When gold transforms into an earring, it is not rejected by those wanting gold, because the earring is in essence gold. True Gyanis see in this mundane example an analogy to the different yet non-different relationship of the Supreme Lord and his emanations, both material and spiritual. Thus, this transcendental knowledge frees them from the bondage of illusion, for they can then see Sri Krishna throughout his creation. They see how he is the cause of everything. Let me just check the comments. Haribol Pradyumna Prabhu and Mantra Murti Mataji. 1 second. Tava pariye charantyakila satani niketataya ta utapada kramantya viganaya shiro nirite parivaya se pashun ivagira vibudana pitangs tvaikrita sohrida kalupunanti naye vimukha. The devotees who worship you as the shelter of all beings disregard death and place their feet on his head. But with the words of the Vedas, you bind the non-devotees like animals, though they be vastly learned scholars. It is your affectionate devotees who can purify themselves and others, not those who are inimical to you. In the previous 2 verses regarding the supreme goal of life, the personified Vedas presented 5 different schools of erroneous philosophies. The Asar Utpattivad, the proponents of Patanjali's yoga system, who say that they can attain Brahman by material exercises. The Sadvinashavad of the Nayayikas, who advocate destruction of the jiva's consciousness. Then the Sagunatva Bhedavad of the Sankhya's, who say liberation is achieved when the soul is separated from all his apparent qualities. Then the Viparnavad of the Mimamsakas, who condemn the soul to the eternal involvement in the mundane business of karma. And the Vivartavad of the Mayavadis, who claim the soul's real life in this world as an illusion. Having rejected all these concepts, the personified Vedas now present Paricharyavad, the philosophy of devotional service in this verse. The Vaishnava philosophy teaches that the jiva soul is an atomic particle of spiritual personality who possesses minute knowledge. He is not independent and has no material qualities. Being minute, he is prone to come under the control of the material energy, where he suffers the pains of material life. Only by bhakti, and not by fruit of work, mental speculation, or any other process, can one destroy the suffering of material existence and attain the supreme personality of Godhead. As Sri Krishna says in his own words, Tai vihyesha gunamai mama maya durattaya mam eva ye prapadyante mayang etang tarantite. My divine energy, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. That's from Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya shraddhayatma priyasatam. Bhakti punatimam nishta shvapakan apisambhavat. Only by practicing unalloyed devotional service with full faith in me can one obtain me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am naturally dear to my devotees, who take me as the only goal of their loving service. By engaging in such pure devotional service, even the dog-eaters can purify themselves from the contamination of their low birth. That's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11:14-21. According to these statements of Sri Krishna, bhakti is the only process. By such statements as the 21st verse beginning Duravagatma, difficult to understand. Oh yeah, Duravagatma. So by such statements as this 21st verse, the Shrutis also indicates that devotional service is itself the supreme goal of life, the Parama Purushartha. Thus propounding the Vaishnava philosophy as superior to all others, the Shrutis place the Vaishnavas in the topmost category and condemn all other philosophers in this verse. The genitive form of tava is used here in the sense of the accusative case. The intervention of the words between the upasarga and the verb in the phrase tava pariye charanti, which is equivalent to tvam ye paricharanti, is not a mistake. Rather, it is permissible for metrical reasons in the verse, according to the rule of the great grammarian Panini. Chandasi vyavahitas cha. Okay. The Shruti said, the Vaishnavas worship you as the shelter of everything. The Vaishnavas worship you as the shelter of everything that exists. Moreover, the devotees themselves can be called Akila Sattva Niketa, in the sense that they serve you with the mood of accepting the reality, the sattvam, of both the material and spiritual worlds. In his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, Shripad Madhvacharya gives evidence of this fact by quoting the Shruti mantra Satyam Hyevedam Vishvam Asrijata. He created this world as real. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 7.1.11 refers to the Supreme Lord as Pradhana Pumbhyam Naradeva Satyakrit, the creator of a real universe of matter and living entities. There is another, more confidential meaning of Akila Sattva Niketa. Akila may be analyzed as follows. The word Kila means impure or inferior. Therefore, Akila means pure or perfect, though its common meaning is all. Then the phrase means that the Supreme Lord's personal abodes in Vaikuntha are perfectly pure realms, free from anxiety and restriction. Therefore, the Vaishnavas who serve the Supreme Lord simply step on the head of death and transcend material existence without paying much attention. But, it may be questioned, the proponents of the above-mentioned philosophies can also surpass death. The Shrutis answer, no, they cannot. Those so-called wise philosophers who are inimical to the Lord are bound in illusion like animals tied by the ropes of such Vedic statements as Asato Dhimano Srijata Mana Prajapatim Asrijat. Thus they are kept in ignorance by the same words of the Vedas that enlighten the surrendered devotees. One should not think, however, that Vaishnavas are ignorant because they may not be expert in philosophical analysis and argument. The Vaishnavas acquire perfect knowledge by receiving the Lord's favor, not through their own efforts at mental speculation. It's by the Lord's favor that they receive perfect knowledge. This is confirmed in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.23. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata guru. Tasyaite katita hyartha prakashante mahatmana. Unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. The Shrutis continue. Therefore, those who have manifested love for you are themselves purified, and by their instructions they purify others. However, those who are not devotees do not become pure. The following Shastric statements confirm these points. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. There is one eternal supreme conscious being among all the other eternal conscious beings, who supplies the needs of everyone else. That's from the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. Tampitvagam ye tu yajanti dhiras tesham santi sasvati netaresham. Those wise souls who worship him in his abode attain everlasting peace. Others cannot. That's from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 22. Jushtam yada pashattanyam isham asya mahimanam iti vittashoka richorkshare pare vyoman yasmin deva adi vishve nishedhu. When the Lord is served with loving affection, one realizes his glory. By such means, one becomes free of sorrow, victorious over death, and ascends to the eternally manifest spiritual sky called Mahavaikuntha. That's from the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 4, verses 7 and 8. Tvam akara, now verse 28. Let me check the comments. All right. Tvamakaranat swarad akila karaka shakti tava balim udvahanti samadhantya jaya nimisha varshabhujo kila kshitipater iva vishvasrijo vidadhati yatra ye tvadhikrita bhavatasthakita. Though you have no material senses, you are the self-effulgent sustainer of everyone's sensory powers. The demigods and material nature herself offer you tribute, while also enjoying the tribute offered them by their worshippers, just as subordinate rulers of various districts in a kingdom offer tribute to their lord, the ultimate proprietor of the land, while also enjoying the tribute paid them by their own subjects. In this way, the universal creators faithfully executes their assigned services out of fear of you. Commentary. The personified Vedas. All intelligent living beings should acknowledge their dependence on you, the supreme independent controller, and willingly engage in your service. But Lord Narayan might object. No, this is not so, because I possess eyes, ears, hands, and so forth. So I am just as dependent on the senses as the living beings. What question is there of my independence or almighty power? Shrutis. No, you have no material senses, yet you are the absolute controller of all. Lord Narayan. Then where do my eyes, ears, and minds come from? Shrutis. Your hands, feet, eyes, and ears are not like those of an ordinary conditioned soul, which are derived from false ego, a material substance. Rather, your transcendently beautiful features are direct manifestations of your internal nature, Swarad. The phrase Akila Shakti Dhara, maintainer of everyone's sensory powers, has an alternative explanation. The power that Lord Narayan maintains within himself is Akila, free from the limitations of all that is Kila, inferior and insignificant. The Supreme Lord energizes the living being's senses, as described by the Kena Upanishad 1-2. Chakshushas chakshur uta shrotasya shrotram manaso mano yad vacho havacham. He is the eye's eye, the ear's ear, the mind's mind, and the voice's capacity of speech. Shrutis. You bestow the power of hearing, seeing, and hearing to the material senses. Anyways, though you have no material senses, you have spiritual senses arising from your Sarup Shakti, your internal energy. The Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.8 declares, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate na tat samascha bhyadikascha drishyate parashaktir vividhaiva shruyate sabhaviki jnana bala kriya cha. Srila Prabhupada quoted this so many times in his purports. He has no material work to perform, nor any material senses with which to perform it. No one can be found who is equal to or greater than him. From the Vedas, we hear how that Supreme Lord possesses multifarious energies, the potencies of knowledge, strength, and action, each of which acts autonomously. Next, the Shrutis speak of Lord Narayan's great power. The demigods like Brahma, whose eyes do not blink, bring you articles of worship, along with even Maya, their authority, who also makes offerings to you. By your mercy, the demigods eat the various sacrificial offerings presented to them by human beings, just as the leaders of various provinces give offerings made by the citizens to the king. These powerful controllers of the universe perform their assigned duties in fear of you. As the Taittiriya Upanishad 2.8.1 states, Bhishasmad vata pavate bhishad eti surya Bhishasmad agnish chandrash chamrityur dhavati panchama. The wind blows out of fear of him. The sun rises out of fear of him. The fire, moon, and death, the fifth of their number, run out of fear of him. All right. Verse 29. Sthirachara jataya surajayota nimitta yujo vihara udikshaya yadi parasya vimuktatata nahi paramasya kaschira paro na parascha bhaver viyata ivaspadasya tava shunyatulam dadhata. O eternally liberated transcendental Lord, your material energy causes the various moving and non-moving species of life to appear by activating their material desires, but only when and if you sport with her by briefly glancing at her. You, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, see no one as an intimate friend and no one as a stranger, just as the ethereal sky has no connection with perceptible qualities. In this sense, you resemble a void. Commentary. Having spoken of the power and independence of Lord Narayan as reasons for being worthy of worship, now the Shrutis speak of the reasons for the jiva being his worshipper, namely his lack of power and lack of independence. The Shrutis said, O ever-liberated Lord, when you, who remain far away from Maya and do not associate with her, play with Mahamaya by slightly glancing at her, then the jivas develop bodies endowed with movement or inertia. Okay, let's just reread that. When you who remain far away and do not associate with her, when you play with her by slightly glancing at her, then all the jivas develop bodies endowed with movement or inertia. Lord Narayan. But if all the jivas are merged in me, how can they appear again? Shrutis. By your glance, the jivas manifest the subtle bodies needed for material activities. The jivas merge into you because of a merging of illusory identities at the time of devastation. The jivas again appear when their upadhis manifest through your glance. In this way, the jiva's lack of power as indicated by his being controlled is indicated by his being controlled by karma. Lord Narayan. But then this awakening to activity takes place simply by my whim? Shrutis. No, because you are free from partiality, you cannot produce an unfair creation. You are the faultless Supreme Personality of Godhead, so there cannot be any sense of mine and others, just as the ethereal sky,
which because of not being touched by anything, does not allow any partiality to abide in it. But this does not mean that you are exactly like the ether. Rather, ether has some similarity to you. In this connection, the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 2.120 states, Yatagne Kshudra Vishpulinga Vyucharantevam Evasmar Atmana Sarve Prana Sarve Loka Sarve Deva Sarvani Bhutani Vyucharanti. Just as small sparks emanate from a big fire, similarly, all living entities, all planets, and all the demigods, and all the material elements, such as the earth, emanates from the Supreme Soul, Sri Govinda. All right, so now we come to verse 30. Should I read this? You know what? I'm going to read this translation and commentary tomorrow. That's okay. Actually, I'm going to pre-record it because I'm going to, in a few hours from now, I'm going to be on a train going to Kolkata. So I'll pre-record a video so that while I'm on the train, the video will go live. But I was thinking, I made a video on this verse, so I thought maybe we could just hear the explanation of that now, and then I'll read the purport for it tomorrow. Yeah, I'll start with verse 30 tomorrow. Haribol, Manjari Didi, and Nitai. So yeah, let's do that. Oh wait, I already added the source. Let's see.
Haribol, welcome to part 2 of this third week of Rupa Shiksha. Yesterday we learned the verse.
Can you hear anything?
Balagrashatabhagasya. We learned how the jiva is anu.
Let me know if you can hear this.
And shukshma, very fine. Haribol, welcome to part 2 of this third week of Rupa Shiksha. Yesterday we learned the verse Balagrashatabhagasya. We learned how the jiva is anu.
So can you hear the? Can you let me know? Can you hear the sound there? Okay, great. So I'm gonna skip ahead because this video is a little bit long. I go through a whole bunch of different things, and I go through how to say this verse. Yeah, so I go through the meter of this verse, and then I explain it. Okay, let's go through the explanation. Because actually the translation for this verse is very confusing. And so this is I made a much simpler translation. It took me a long time to do this. Actually, let's say it took this.
Makes up for the missing lagu. Anyhow, sorry, that's a little complicated. Just basically,
I gave an explanation on Sanskrit verse meter. So anyways, if you want to watch that later.
And notice how I elongate all the guru syllables, which you see in green here.
Tarishashyate niyamo dhruvane taratha ajani chayan mayam taravimuchaniyantri bhavet samanujanatam yadamatam matatushtataya Aparimita dhruvas samamashashyate tadamatam matatushtataya.
So this is one of the last verses in the Shruti Stuti, or the prayers of the Personified Vedas, which is 10th canto, 87th chapter, verse 30. Aparimita dhruvastanu yadi sarvagatas. The jivas are countless, aparimita, but if, yadi, they were fixed, dhruva, and the bodies they accepted, tanuvrittaha, and they were all pervading, sarvagaha, tarhinashashyate tiriyamo dhruvane taratha. Then, tarhi, you would have no sovereignty, nashashyata, over them. You wouldn't be able to regulate or control niyama them. And then the Lord is addressed here as dhruva, which means fixed. O Lord, you are fixed in your eternal svarup, dhruva, and not otherwise, na itarata. So as you see, this word dhruva comes twice. In the first line, it's dhruvaha, referring to the living entities, it's a plural. And the second time, it is in a vocative case, singular, referring to the Lord, O dhruva. So the jivas aren't dhruvaha, they aren't fixed in the bodies that they have accepted. But O Lord, you are really dhruva, you are fixed in your eternal svarup. Ajani chayan mayan taravimucha nirantri bhavet. They are generated, ajani, and they are made from, the very substance comes from you, yat mayam. So they can never become separated, avimucha, from the supreme truth, tat, tad avimucha. They can never become separated from you. Thus, you must be bhavet. You must be their controller, their regulator, niyantri. Samamanu-janatam yadamatam matadushtaya. Those who claim to know anujanatam, that the jivas are equal, samam, to you, such ideas, such mata, are really not ideas, they're amatam. They are false ideas, unacceptable. This idea, this mata, is dushtaya. It is full of faults, doshapurna. It has arisen from pollution, from contamination of the material mind, dushtataya. Alright, so that was the basic meaning of the words. Let's go over the translation. O my Lord, O Dhruva, you are eternally fixed in your divine svarup. The jivas are unlimited, aparimita. But if they were fixed in their bodies and all-pervading, then you would have no sovereignty over them, and you could not control them. So those are the first two lines of the verse. But what is their true position? They are yan mayam. They have come from you. Their very substance comes from you. They have expanded from your Shakti. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 15:7, Mamaya vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. The eternal living entities in this material world are certainly my separated parts, my anksha, vibhinangsha. Since they were made from Krishna's energy, since they're yan mayam, they can never be separated from him. Avimucha, never separated. They can never become independent from him. Like, for example, a pot made of clay that has come from the earth can never become separate from the earth. The qualities of earth are inherent within that pot, and it cannot avimucha, it cannot give up those qualities. Similarly, we living beings are made from the energy of Krishna, so we can never be separate or independent from him. So there's a commentary on this verse by Śrīla Prabodhananda Saraswati Ṭhākura, which Prem Prayojan Prabhu discovered in a rare bookshop, and he translated it. And so I heard this explanation, and man, is it mind-blowing. There are three levels in this commentary. The first level is the Vedantic explanation of this verse. There are 6 classical Vedic schools of thought: Nyaya, logic; Vaisheshika, atomic theory; Sankhya, dealing with Purusha and Prakriti of Kapila Muni; the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali; Purva Mimamsa, which deals with Karma Kanda of Jaimini Rishi; and the Vedanta of Vyasadeva. There are also 3 ancient schools of thought that don't accept the authority of the Vedas. That is the philosophy of Charvak, Buddhism, and Jainism. The different Vedic schools of thought have things that we Gaudiya Vaishnavas agree on, but there are many things that are lacking or just completely wrong. We don't accept them. So each one of the verses in this chapter of the prayers of the personified Vedas has its roots in a particular Upanishad, which is cutting the conclusions of one of these philosophies. So this particular verse is prayed by the Kenu Upanishad. Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Thakur's Sārārtha-darśinī commentary is also coming from this Vedantic angle. Now the second, deeper level of explanation gives a glimpse into the private bhajan of these personified Vedas, these Shrutis. There's an explanation in Jaiva Dharma, and my Gurudev also used to always tell about the Shruti Chari Gopis. Here's an excerpt from Venu Geet.
The Sadhan Siddha Gopis are of 2 types, Yotiki and Ayotiki. Practicing devotees who are completely enchanted by the loving moods of the gopis perform sadhan bhajan following the path of spontaneous devotion, raganuga. Those who practice in groups and eventually take birth in Vraj, where they again come together, are called yotiki. And those who take birth in Vraj, having practiced solitary raganuga bhajan, or with one or two others, are called ayotiki. The yotiki gopis are also of two types: Shruti-chari, the personified Vedas, and Muni-chari, or Rishi-chari, the Dandakaranya sages. Seeing the fortune of the gopis performing Ras-lila and other pastimes with Krishna, the Shruti-charis were struck with wonder. By engaging in severe austerities with great faith, they achieved birth in the homes of the gopis in Vraj. Then, by the influence of the association of Nitya Siddha and Kaya Vyuha gopis, they easily entered the rasa dance and other pastimes.
So when all the Shrutis emanate from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, they sing many prayers to wake him up. But while they're singing these prayers, they are meditating on their spiritual forms under the guidance of the Nitya Siddha gopis, singing sweet songs to wake Radha and Krishna up. So all these words in their prayers have a hidden meaning which relates to Raganuga Bhakti. All these words are in the mood of the Vrajvasis. So that's the second level explanation. And now the third level of explanation is of the Nitya Siddha gopis. And it relates completely to Radha and Krishna's pastimes together. And they deeply express their exclusive dedication, their exclusive devotion to Srimati Radhika. So you can get an idea, there's a whole lot in this verse. I spent a long time trying to get into all these meanings so that I could share it with you on this video. But yeah, it was way above my adhikar, and it would probably take a few YouTube videos to go through it all. So in the most basic understanding, these verses are explaining our position in relation to Bhagavan's position. In the next video, which will come out on Thursday, we will go through the next 7 verses, describing how rare it is to find a devotee of Krishna, and how these pure devotees of Krishna are the only ones that are actually peaceful. Everyone else is restless and
I think that's the end, yeah.
And after that, we'll come to the parts we've all been waiting for, when we attain the seed of the vine of devotion. So, until next time, Jai Shri Radhe.
Alright, so that was, yeah, anyways, we'll read the verse with the commentary of Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura tomorrow. But the translation is really difficult to understand with the way it was translated, and so that's why anyways, I can try to go over it tomorrow myself, in the pre-recorded video I make now. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Alright, oh, and Rukmini Didi, yeah, I tried sending the video here and the chat, but it didn't seem to go through. But if you just go to YouTube and you type in Vine of Devotion, you see that's my Vine of Devotion channel, and then it is the video. I'll just click here. Let's see. Okay, so you go to videos, and it will be this one, Rupa Shiksha 3b. My position in relation to the Lord, because this was quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami in Rupa Shiksha. Alright. Jai Shishi. Oops, I thought I was sharing my screen that time. Sorry about that. Anyways, here's Vine of Devotion, And you see the videos there. It's this one right here. My position in relation to the Lord. That one. Alright. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagiri Dhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishram Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishram Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishram Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishram Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishram Vishnupad Ashata Rashata Shishimar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishra Maha Bhagavat Shila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishra Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Nityal Pavishra Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Anugauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gora Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradatta Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Shri Shruti Stuti Ki Jai. Shri Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Sārārtha-darśinī Commentary Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyai Vacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams everybody. Thanks Rukmini Didi. Oh, and Bhavatarini Mataji. Thank you. Yes. Alright, so I'll see you all, well, the pre-recorded video tomorrow while I'm on the train will be playing. And then hopefully when I'm in Kolkata, I'm going to stay in Kolkata for 2 nights. And so hopefully while I'm there, I'll have a good Wi-Fi connection so that I can continue our readings. All right, thank you, Indira Mataji. Hari Bol, everybody.